David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney+. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney+ every night.
Tonight, we're following several developing stories as we come on the air. A winter storm disrupts holiday travel for millions with another storm coming. Plus, the hunt for a suspect after a mass shooting at a birthday party. We begin with that winter storm. Thousands of flights canceled as Americans head home after Thanksgiving. In Iowa, a plane slid off a runway while turning to taxi. Dozens of cars and trucks involved in a pileup in Indiana, while Chicago has its snowiest November day on record. And round two is on the way, bringing snow and rain to multiple states. Our weather team is timing it all out. Tonight, police are searching for a suspect who they say opened fire at a child's birthday party in Stockton, California. 4 people, including young children, were killed, nearly a dozen others wounded. Also tonight, the high-level talks on Ukraine's future and the Russian demand that's emerging as a key sticking point. Russia now stepping up its drone attacks, 1,400 in just 1 week. Ukraine, though, fighting back with attacks on 2 Russian ships. President Trump turns up the pressure on Venezuela, warning airlines its airspace should be considered closed. And now Republicans and Democrats are expressing alarm over a report on a series of U.S. strikes on a suspected drug boat in the Caribbean Sea. Some say it may have violated international law. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is under scrutiny. Disturbing new allegations about the suspect in the shooting of 2 National Guard troops in the nation's capital. The Secretary of Homeland Security claims he may have been radicalized after arriving in the U.S. from Afghanistan. Pope Leo's mission to the Middle East and what he sees as the best hope for peace between Israel and the Palestinians. The shocking crash captured on video, a coffee shop destroyed. The 90-year-old driver rushed to the hospital. And we have the receipts. This Black Friday broke records for online shopping, with Cyber Monday still ahead. And America Strong tonight, the baby that just couldn't wait to be born, and a fire captain who waited his whole career for a moment like this.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. We begin tonight with a beast of a winter storm that is making a mess of the trip home for millions of Americans after the Thanksgiving holiday. Snow and ice are creating scenes like this one at Chicago airports, causing the cancellation of more than 1,500 flights there on Saturday. Overnight, a terrifying close call for passengers in Iowa, where a plane skidded off an icy runway. Fortunately, everyone is okay. The blast of winter is also making the drive home dangerous for millions hitting the roads. Some 35 cars and 10 semis were involved in this massive pileup on Interstate 70 in Indiana. And another system moving in has already caused multiple car pileups on Interstate 70, this time in western Colorado. Our weather team is standing by with the forecast. But first, ABC's Morgan Norwood leads us off from Newark's International Airport.
Tonight, the massive winter storm disrupting travel all weekend as millions head home from the Thanksgiving holiday. In Chicago, the snowiest November day on record, 8.4 inches of snow falling in just 24 hours Saturday. Icicles forming sideways from the winds whipping off of Lake Michigan. Brigades of snowplows out in full force, racing to clear the roadways. Of the nearly 2,000 flights canceled across the country Saturday, more than 1,500 of them were at Chicago's airports, stranding travelers. The Felt family trying to get back to New Orleans.
Just trying to roll with the punches. We know better than a lot of people that sometimes Mother Nature has other plans and can disrupt what your plans are going to be.
Finally arriving home at 5 a.m. this morning. Overnight, a Delta flight from Detroit to Des Moines sliding off the end of the runway as it turned to taxi just after landing. In all, 58 people on board. No injuries reported. At Newark Airport today, we met Wendy and David Bassick, heading back to Florida.
We're trying to get out of here before anything, heads this way. So we know that there's a lot of disruption in the system.
More than 9,000 flights delayed across the country today. Over 700 more canceled. Traveling by car, not any easier. Near Terre Haute, Indiana, a chain reaction crash on Interstate 70 Saturday. Drivers sliding off the road and colliding with one another. 45 vehicles in all, including 10 semis. The roadway shut down for several hours. Indiana State Police making this plea.
Folks, if you can stay home, let's just stay home.
Those stranded on the side of the road, wrapped in blankets. Ambulances taking 11 people from the scene. Luckily, no major injuries.
People just need to drive smart when the snow starts falling, reduce your speed, make sure you're buckled up, and let's just all be safe out there.
That system now bringing rain and snow to the Northeast, with wet roads extending all the way to the Gulf Coast.
And Lindsay, back here at Newark, you can see the TSA line spilling beyond the ropes and into the lobby. But as for this weekend's storm system, major airlines are allowing passengers to rebook without those extra change fees. But heads up, another winter storm system is brewing, and we could be talking about more cancellations, more delays later this week. Lindsay?
More headaches potentially on the way. Morgan, thank you. Let's get right to meteorologist Danny Beckstrom from our New York station WABC. Danny, no rest for the weary. Tell us about this next storm on the way.
Another round. So the post-Thanksgiving storm, that's now exiting east as our attention turns now to a developing system starting Monday. So we're watching two lows. The one to the north packing cold enough air to produce some snow from parts of the heartland up through the Midwest. Now the one to the south, that's mainly rain for the lower Mississippi Valley. But the northern tier does have cold enough air to produce a mix or maybe a little glaze of ice, and that's enough to prompt a winter weather advisory from Little Rock to Paducah on Monday. Those two lows then converge and create really messy conditions starting first thing Tuesday. It's mainly a rain event from D.C. south, but the I-95 corridor will see a rain-snow mix, and the interior Northeast, that's where we could see a really productive snowfall event. We're talking 6 to 12 inches of snow in pockets from Harrisburg up through Portland, Maine. This is enough to really complicate travel, even if the major metro areas, Lindsay, are spared from the most significant storm totals. It's still going to be messy on Tuesday. Winter storm watch is already in effect.
All right, we know you'll be monitoring it all for us, Danny. Thanks so much. Next night, the urgent search for a suspect after a child's birthday party turns deadly in Stockton, California. 3 of the 4 people killed were children. At least 11 others were injured. Police say this was a targeted attack. Authorities are now asking the public for help. Here's ABC's Melissa Adan.
Tonight, a manhunt underway for a suspect police say left 4 people dead and 11 others injured after opening fire at a birthday party in Stockton, California.
Our #1 priority right now is locating either a suspect or possible suspects in this incident and holding them accountable.
Police say gunfire erupted around 6 p.m. Saturday at a banquet hall. First responders rushing to the scene where at least 15 people, including children, were shot and taken to local hospitals.
Tons of cop cars, ambulances, literally people yelling, running, just pure chaos.
The San Joaquin Sheriff's Office telling ABC News the victims who lost their lives were ages 8, 9, 14, and 21.
Violence of this nature has absolutely no place at any time, shape, or form, and children should not be harmed by gun and gang violence.
Now, investigators say they believe this was a targeted incident, and tonight, Lindsay, community members are holding a vigil for those victims. Lindsay?
Melissa, thank you. Now to the high-stakes talks to end the war between Ukraine and Russia. Both U.S. and Ukrainian negotiators say today's talks were productive, but sticking points remain. And over the weekend, Russia bombarded Ukraine with deadly and devastating drone and missile attacks. Here's ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reporting from Ukraine.
Tonight, high-stakes talks in Florida. The Trump administration's top negotiators, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, meeting with the Ukrainian delegation to discuss the peace plan being pushed by the president.
This is not just about ending the war, which is very important. It is about securing Ukraine's future, a future that we hope will be more prosperous than it's ever been.
But while both sides calling the talks positive, crucial sticking points remain. A source familiar with the discussions telling ABC News the Russians are not willing to agree to a ceasefire in any form, while Ukraine is unwilling to concede territory. Meanwhile, the battle raging on. Russia launching more devastating drone and missile attacks against Ukraine this weekend. At least 4 killed and dozens wounded in Kyiv. But Ukraine fighting back. Ukraine's intelligence service releasing dramatic video showing sea drones hitting 2 Russian tankers off Turkey's coast, suspected of smuggling sanctioned Russian oil. And for those on the front lines, the way this war ends matters. We met Vitaly and his wife Yulia. He lost both his legs after being struck by a Russian drone on the Eastern Front.
Now Ukraine is being asked to make further sacrifices, to give up land, to reduce the size of its army.
We are not going to do that.
You're not going to do that?
No.
So many lives have been devastated by this war, and Ukrainians are adamant that these sacrifices should not be in vain. Lindsay, this is a critical week for Ukraine. On Tuesday, US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff takes his deal to Vladimir Putin. And I think only then will we know if the Russian president's willing to make not just demands, but concessions too. And few here in Ukraine have high hopes that a breakthrough to end this nearly 4-year conflict is imminent. Lindsay?
Ian, thank you. Now to a rare show of unity in Washington amid escalating tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela. A September boat strike in the Caribbean Sea is facing scrutiny from both sides of the aisle. This comes after a report that Secretary Pete Hegseth gave an order to leave no survivors. On Saturday, President Trump declared that Venezuelan airspace should be considered closed. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selina Wang.
Tonight, growing bipartisan alarm over President Trump's escalating military campaign in the Caribbean Sea. Top lawmakers saying the U.S. military may have violated international law in September after the Washington Post reported that U.S. forces carried out a second airstrike on a suspected drug boat after the initial strike left 2 survivors struggling in the water, allegedly to comply with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's initial orders to kill all passengers aboard.
This rises to the level of a war crime if it's true.
Obviously, if that occurred, that would be very serious, and I agree that would be an illegal act.
ABC News has not confirmed the specifics of those orders. Subsequent strikes killed survivors in the water, a source confirmed to ABC News, but questions remain about why. Hegseth defending the campaign, posting, "The intent is to stop lethal drugs, destroy narco boats, and kill the narco terrorists who are poisoning the American people. Biden coddled terrorists, we kill them." Since September, the U.S. has launched at least 20 strikes on suspected drug boats in the Caribbean Sea, killing more than 80 people. But the administration has offered no public evidence to prove they were actually smuggling drugs. This as Trump escalates his threats against Venezuela. On Saturday, the president warning all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Venezuela firing back, calling Trump's airspace declaration a colonialist threat and unjustified aggression against the Venezuelan people. But Lindsay, at the same time, President Trump is waging this campaign against alleged drug traffickers in Venezuela. Trump is also pardoning the former president of Honduras, who is convicted in a U.S. federal court of trafficking massive amounts of cocaine into the United States. Democratic Senator Tim Kaine is calling the decision disgusting and incomprehensible. Lindsay?
Selina Wang for us. Thank you. We're learning of potentially new information about the suspect in the shooting of 2 National Guard members in the nation's capital. The Secretary of Homeland Security says he was radicalized after arriving in the U.S. from Afghanistan. 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom died on Thanksgiving Day. Here's ABC's Mola Langi.
Tonight, new clues as to what may have driven 29-year-old Afghan national Ramanullah Lakhdwal to allegedly shoot 2 West Virginia National Guardsmen just 2 blocks from the White House. 20-year-old specialist Sarah Beckstrom dying of her injuries on Thanksgiving Day. Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf now fighting for his life. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem saying Lakhdwal could have been radicalized here in the U.S.
We continue to talk to his family and his contacts. More details will be revealed, and we'll release those when it's appropriate.
Authorities still investigating, but so far have not released any evidence pointing to Lakhdwal having ties to a terrorist organization. The husband and father of 5 entered the U.S. in 2021 and was granted asylum in April. A source tells ABC News Lakhdwal was unable to work in his adopted home of Washington State because of an expired work permit. And according to the Associated Press, he struggled for years with his new life in the U.S., while his mental health reportedly deteriorated. The shooting leading the Trump administration to pause all asylum decisions and, at least for now, stopping the granting of visas to Afghan nationals.
It is outrageous and unfair to try to punish an entire class of people. These are individuals who worked side by side with America in the fight against the Taliban. And if they were sent back now, the Taliban may likely kill them. Might execute them.
Lakhdwal was wounded in the shooting and remains in the hospital. He faces first-degree murder and other charges, Lindsay.
Mola, thank you. Overseas now to Pope Leo's message of hope and peace for Lebanon. The Pope is in Beirut for the second half of his first international trip. It comes at a time of uncertainty for the country after years of turmoil and violence. Let's bring in ABC's Britt Clennett, who's traveling with the Pontiff. Hi, Britt.
Hi, Lindsay. Yeah, well, tonight, Pope Leo making a strong plea for peace in front of Lebanon's political leaders as the first American Pope begins the second leg of his maiden foreign trip. The Pope receiving a very warm welcome here in Beirut, arriving from Turkey. And on the flight over, the Pope told reporters the Holy See can be a mediating voice to reach a two-state solution for Palestinians and Israelis. And the Pope at the presidential palace saying Lebanon must use its tenacity to build peace. That's despite its highly complex and uncertain situation, he said. Now, the Pope here in Lebanon, we have to remember, despite serious security concerns with Israel carrying out strikes on Beirut just last week. And Pope Leo's packed schedule, Lindsay, includes an outdoor mass in Beirut with tens of thousands expected there. Lindsay.
Britt, thank you. Next tonight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is seeking a pardon on corruption charges, which would end a long-running trial. He says it will unify the country at a time of momentous change in the region. But his opponents are criticizing the request, saying it would weaken democratic institutions and sends a dangerous message that he is above the law. Now to deadly and catastrophic flooding in Indonesia. More than 400 people have died and hundreds are missing. Entire communities have been wiped out. Authorities say some are struggling to find food and water after landslides damaged roads and downed communication lines. In recent days, heavy monsoon rains have overwhelmed parts of Southeast Asia. And there's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday, including two devastating crashes, how first responders became victims. And a coffee shop was destroyed by a speeding car. The driver, 90 years old. Next, a horrifying crash in Houston overnight. 4 firefighters were hurt when an 18-wheeler plowed into their fire truck. They were diverting traffic off of a highway when the accident took place. The 4 were rushed to hospitals. The department says all 4 are expected to recover. And now to a dramatic video of a high-speed crash in Northern California. Watch as a car careens into a coffee shop in Los Gatos on Thanksgiving evening. No one was inside at the time. The shop was demolished. First responders rescued the driver, who's 90 years old, and rushed him to a hospital. Police say he's in serious but stable condition. When we come back, the numbers are in on America's Black Friday shopping spree. To the index now, American shoppers are looking forward to Cyber Monday after shattering records on Black Friday. Adobe says consumers spent $11.8 billion online on Friday. That's up more than 9% from last year. More than 55% of those sales came through mobile devices. Next, a remarkable return to action. Denver Broncos linebacker Alex Singleton is expected to play tonight against the Washington Commanders. Just 3 weeks ago, he underwent emergency surgery for testicular cancer. Singleton is 31 and says a random drug test helped detect the cancer. Tonight, the entertainment world is remembering British playwright Tom Stoppard, known for his wit and irreverence. 5 of his plays won Tony Awards for Best Play, beginning in 1968 with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. 3 decades later, he won an Oscar for the screenplay for Shakespeare in Love. Tom Stoppard died at home in England. He was 88 years old. When we come back, America Strong, the fire captain who waited his whole career for this one special call. Finally, America Strong, a first for a first responder.
As a fire captain, Ken Bartz answers life or death calls for a living, but never one like this.
34-year-old female, her water broke. She says she does feel the baby's head.
This is my best call. This is one I won't forget.
LaShawna Brown was in the dining room when her water broke.
Everything just happened so fast, so quick.
We had a plan, but for her being birthed at home was not the plan.
So the soon-to-be dad resorted to Plan B and made a frantic call to 911.
Our response time was about 3 minutes from receiving the call to on scene.
They told me to lay down on my back, and he said, "You're gonna have to push," right there in the middle of the dining room floor.
While Dad was trying to comfort Mom, he says everyone else comforted him.
Reassuring, real smooth, like, hey, we got you, take your time. Hey, Dad, we need a towel. I'm tossing towels to him. Like, it was just a moment.
Within about 4 minutes, I was holding a beautiful baby girl.
Baby Amarla, an early Thanksgiving surprise, ahead of schedule, but just in time for this season of gratitude.
I appreciate their calmness and just really helping me to just focus and just give birth.
Captain Bartz has 22 years of experience, mostly fighting fires, but he says this moment he was born for.
Believe it or not, this is something I've always wanted to do. Being on this job is deliver a baby. It's amazing.
Congratulations. Thanks for watching. I'm Lindsay Davis. Good night.
David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. And now, ABC's World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the third year in a row.